Hello, and welcome back to my loyal viewers and my even more loyal haters. My last few Slay the Spire challenge videos have been very defense focused. If you haven't watched those, go do that now because my mental faculties are rapidly deteriorating, which will eventually result in the creative death of this channel. Before you know it, I'll be doing react videos and starting online drama. To give myself a mental break from all of the block, I was trying to figure out what the least thought-intensive challenge could be. What cards require the least thought to play? Is it A, Anger in an Exhaust deck with Fiend Fire, Corruption, Shuriken, Medical Kit, Blue Candle, and Unceasing Top? B, Scry cards in a hyper-specific Watcher deck with Darkstone Periep, Duvu Doll, Cursed Key, and 50 Cursed cards? Or C, Attack cards? Ding ding ding, the correct answer was C. You get a gold star. And because attack cards are so easy to play, that's all I'm allowed to do for this challenge run. Skill cards? Nah. Power cards? Nah. All I want to do is play 3 strikes per turn for the rest of time. Before the run, I'm going to quickly lay out the rules. Rule number 1. I'm not allowed to play any card that isn't labeled as an attack. No skills, no powers, not even curse or status cards with Blue Candle or Medic Kit. Rule number 2. No restrictions on relics or potions for this run because it was actually probably the hardest challenge run I've done yet. Rule number 3. I'm going to be playing on a random Ascension 1 seed, and no, I'm not going to be fighting the heart because by turn 3, I'll be taking 96 damage, not to mention the damage from every single card I play. Possibly impossible. Now, the average Slay the Spire player might think, well, because I'm taking so much damage, let's pick the Ironclad, because he can heal every turn. And the average Slay the Spire player would be stupid and dumb and should uninstall the game. In all seriousness, though, the Ironclad relies pretty heavily on either high block, high strength, or a super niche deck like Anger spamming or Exhaust damage, both of which were too complicated for me to spend brain power on, so I'm not going to. Instead, I decided to go with the Silent for this run, not because I had an awesome high IQ strategy in mind, but just because it's one of the 2 characters I haven't made a video with yet, and you couldn't pay me to play the Watcher. Luckily, I managed to stumble into a very good character decision, but I'll talk about that later. The run started out a little differently than normal, as I didn't immediately take Meow's Lament. This challenge has a different choke point than the ones I've done previously, because getting started is easy enough. The real challenge comes in Act 2 and 3 with monsters that deal huge damage and have a ton of health. Instead, after checking the map and seeing a pretty early shop, I went with 250 extra gold in exchange for a curse being added to my deck. This run relies pretty heavily on good relics and high damage cards, so increasing my options with more gold for a shop was, in my eyes, the best choice. My curse was Doubt, which was one of the 3 or 4 curses that were actually pretty annoying for the challenge. Luckily, after slowly beating the Jawworm to death, picking up a very important skewer, and finding a few potions in my first event room, I removed Doubt at the shop. I also picked up Pen Nib, as every single card I was allowed to play would be an attack. My final purchase was Dramatic Entrance, which is a good card to explain my strategy with. Because I knew I wouldn't be allowed to put up very much block, if any, I needed the combats to last as few turns as possible. Less turns means less damage, which means a more successful run. The best case scenario is a 1-turn combat where I take 0 damage, which can be achieved with innate attack cards like Dramatic Entrance and Backstab, and turn 1 relics like Bag of Marbles, Mutagenic Strength, Bag of Preparation, and the Silence starting relic Ring of the Snake. With enough cards and enough power, turn 1 victories were very feasible. In the next room, I took out the Cultist and traded my block potion for a regen potion, which effectively gave me 15 health as opposed to the 12 health the block potion provided. In the next shop, I picked up a Sneaky Strike that, although I had no attack cards that would make its discard functionality useful, dealt 12 damage. The more attacking cards I had in my deck, the higher the likelihood I would draw one on any given turn, which is very important when half of your cards are effectively injuries. At the rest site, I upgraded Skewer, bringing its damage from 7 per energy to 10. From the Big Fish event, I was tempted to take the relic for a regret, but knew I would regret it, wink wink nudge nudge, because there were no shops in my near future and I had no way of discarding any skills or power cards. Instead, I ate the entire unpeeled banana for 23 health so that I could smith Dramatic Entrance at the next campfire rather than resting. The Spire then spit in my face by giving me Whetstone for my Act 1 chest relic, upgrading 2 garbage strikes. I removed a defend at the next event space and then showed off the power of Dramatic Entrance and Skewer by taking out the slimes in one turn. The Looter also didn't stand any chance against my pen-nibbed Skewer, dealing 60 damage for my 3 energy. I hit him with a roll reversal by then taking his wallet and looting Masterful Stab off his lifeless body. My powerful turn 1 hand wasn't quite enough to take out the large spiked slime in the next room. I was, however, able to split him, and a few turns later, his ugly kids were vanquished as well. I pen-nibbed my Dramatic Entrance against the Blue Slaver, who I just now realized is carrying one of those, man catchers, which is kind of messed up. Luckily, I made him pay for his sins by killing him in a brutal, fiery inferno thanks to my explosive potion. At my final rest site before the boss, I upgraded Neutralize, making it apply 2 weakness rather than just 1. This weakness would come in handy for the Act 1 boss, Hexaghost, as his multi-hit 6 damage attacks would be nerfed to only 4 damage per hit, which could be the difference between a run and a reset. In terms of bosses, the Hexaghost was a fine Act 1 encounter. I'm honestly just glad it wasn't the Guardian, as his defense mode had been killing runs for the last few hours. I started out strong with a 59 damage turn 1 thanks to my Strength Potion, Dramatic Entrance, Masterful Stab, and Sneaky Strike. I also got off a Neutralize, which was very helpful in bringing his turn 2 attack down from 36 to 24. For once in my life, I actually paid attention to Pen Nib and made sure to play my strike so that Skewer got doubled for 48 damage. A few more Skewers later, I barely crawled out of the combat with 2 HP. A pen-nibbed Sneaky Strike was a bit overkill for the 6 health boss, but a win is a win. Also, a 13 energy Masterful Stab is a bit wild. I picked Unload for my rare card, enabling me to activate Sneaky Strike, assuming I draw them both on the same turn, and grabbed Fusion Hammer for some more energy to put towards Skewer. Act 2 started me out against the Shelled Parasite, who took me down to 46 after a few unlucky skewerless draws. From this first combat, I picked up another great card, Finisher, which actually has terrible synergy with Skewer, but I never claimed to be the best Slay the Spire player of all time, so no need to roast me in the comments. I then proved I am a good guy and could never run illegal lotteries by donating $75 and a defend to the strangely familiar-looking old beggar. In my next event space, I doubled down on my good deeds and gave a second homeless man 85 gold in exchange for an anchor, which was a fantastic relic for my working strategy, as it gave me an even better chance of coming out of a 1 or 2 turn combat unscathed. Event space number 3 gave me the sundial after a quick game of chance, and number 4 got me even more invested in the Las Vegas lifestyle by giving me gambling chip. Casino analogies aside, gambling chip drastically improved my turn 1 kill capacity, as I could more or less guaranteed I'd have enough attacks in my hand to use all 4 energy. 1 power nap and a useless shop later, I was faced with the most important decision of the run: Cursed Tome. This event space makes you take 15 damage in exchange for a random book-based relic. The options are the Enchiridion, which would have been worthless with my inability to play power cards, Nilri... Okay, so the reason it's called this is because the guy that made the game Codex, his name spelled backwards is Nilri, but I don't know, I don't care. Nilri's Codex, which could have been useful with possible 0-cost attack cards, or the Necronomicon, which was by far the best option with its niche ability to play X-cost cards twice as well, making Skewer a very, very powerful card. With gambling on the mind, thanks to the previous few rooms, I decided to go for it, and 15 health later, the Necronomicon was mine. It came along with the Necronoma Curse, which didn't pose much threat with gambling chip in hand. My lucky streak unfortunately met a quick end with my Act 2 chest giving me the useless Mummified Hand, which I didn't even take out of spite. After 5 combatless event spaces, I ran into the birds, who stood no chance against my highly tactical strategy of discarding a strike in order to draw another strike. After defeating the avian giraffes, I picked up a backstab to make turn 1 even more consistent, and then decided to head towards an elite. After having given all my money away, I unfortunately couldn't buy a second skewer from the shop, which would have been useful against the first elite of the run, the Book of Stabbing. Little did he know, I actually had my own book that allowed me to do a decent amount of stabbing. A very nice turn 1 hand allowed me to deal 154 damage, which was barely not enough to take out the elite, but thanks to Anchor, I only took 2 damage before returning the Book of Stabbing to the library.
It says here that the book was checked out 400 years ago. You're going to be looking at a late fee of $35,846.17.
Wait, what? No. This isn't even my book. I was just fighting it,
I'm sorry, sir. That's just the library's policy. It's out of my hands.
No, I'm not. It's not even my book. Who even checked this out? Well, luckily on my way home I found a pair of sick nunchucks, so I guess it wasn't all bad. I also picked up a copy of Choke, which worked very well with my innate zero-cost cards. The final event space of the act pulled me right back into my addiction, where I proved gambling is great and everyone should do it by gaining $100 from a roulette wheel. I am legally obligated to clarify that my previous statement was simply a joke and that addictions are a very serious topic that should be treated as such. My last enemy before the boss pitted me against a cultist and a chosen, where I again traded 2 strikes and a defend for 2 strikes and a defend. Maybe gambling actually is bad. Well, regardless, the cultist was down by turn 2 and the chosen soon followed thanks to skewer and pen nib. I picked up a second backstab, and after a rest, was up against the champ. I would have been fine with any of the bosses, but the champ is a great option as he's the only Act 2 boss that doesn't summon minions, allowing me to funnel all 100% of my power directly into his mouth. I had to do some math turn 1, which I'll spare you the details on. Basically, playing a double choke and then a single skewer did more damage than just playing a double skewer. Feel free to pause and check my work. A few turns later, I used Liquid Memories to bring back Skewer for a nice 80 damage, and then took a billion damage after a rough draw. Luckily, a mere turn later, I barely finished the champ off with 84 damage thanks to Skewer and Neutralize. I picked up yet another unload because honestly it's just a good card even without the discard thing, and the Collar to make Skewer even better in the boss and elite battles where it really matters. Act 3 started out pretty rough with 2 spikers and an exploder. I more or less dealt 19 damage to myself thanks to the dumb spikers, which have almost as stupid a name as the exploders, and then picked up a second masterful stab. I unfortunately had to turn down the red mask, which would have been great for my front heavy strategy. 400 gold was just too high of a price to pay for it. The Orb Walker was up next, and thanks to a lucky skewer draw, was dead before he knew what hit him. My next event space was Mind Bloom, which I always kind of thought looked like a baby's face getting blown up, which actually hopefully won't get this video demonetized. Actually, let's blur that out. There we go. Better. I decided to channel my inner Sun Tzu and fight an Act 1 boss, which could have been very, very bad if the Guardian showed up. Luckily, I was up against the Hexaghost for round 2. Unfortunately for my hexagonal foe, the fight was over on turn 2 thanks to Liquid Memories allowing me to bring back Finisher. I was very, very happy to see Ice Cream as my rare relic reward due to its amazing synergy with Skewer. Anytime I save a single energy, it would more or less translate into an additional 20 damage thanks to Necronomicon. I gave the Bonfire Spirits in the next event space my defend, slimming my deck even more, and then fought off the Horde of Jawworms to pick up a third backstab. The Transient in the next event room was no match for my immense damage output, and oh, okay, dang, he actually kind of messed me up. Well, everything actually turned out alright, as after I picked up White Beast statue from my final chest, I healed 18 HP in exchange for Writhe, which I could just remove at the upcoming shop. The Darklings in the next room were all but beaten until I miscounted and stupidly used Cunning Potion to deal 18 damage to a 19 HP monster. Well, never punished as I picked up an Explosive Potion and then a permanent Cunning Potion in the form of Ninja Scroll from the shop. I removed Writhe and then impulsively bought a third unload as I didn't have anything else to spend my money on. The shapes were back for a second time, but after a quick session of counting, and definitely not just playing random cards in the hopes that they will kill the stuff I want to kill, I was on to the final normal enemy combat of the run. Oh, more shapes. Okay, I mean, like, I literally just fought these guys, but that's fine. I mean, who needs variety in their roguelike, right? Not me! Well, one explosive potion and 7 zero-cost cards later, I was headed for the boss. When I'm not doing challenge runs, my favorite strategy has to be a power card deck with the defect. You get Mummified Hand, Creative AI, and Echo Form, and the world's your oyster. Which means I absolutely despise the Awakened One with my entire body and soul. This fight was one of the most intense Slay the Spire boss fights I have ever played. I started out by dumping some shivs and an unload in hopes of drawing some higher energy cards, as I had 5 energy and only 2 non-zero cost cards in my hand. Luck was unfortunately not on my side, as I drew 2 different zero cost cards, replaced my unload, and drew one of the 2 remaining defense in my deck. I pen-nibbed my unload, did some math, and realized I could take out one of the cultists without having to use finisher on it and let the other one live. My turn 2 draw was disgusting, so I popped all 3 of my potions, poison first, then regen, then entropic brew. Some people might ask why I didn't use poison on turn 1, to which I will say, shh, it's okay, it's fine, just it's okay. Entropic brew gave me liquid bronze, which I immediately drank, an attack potion, which I also immediately drank to draw Predator, and a power potion, which I was not allowed to drink. Predator finished off the second cultist and set up my next turn with 2 extra draw. I drew Skewer, which, after playing Unload to increment my pen nib, I played, taking out phase 1 of the Awakened thanks to the Necronomicon. The duplicated play of Skewer also popped my nunchucks, which gave me an extra energy that I could conserve using Ice Cream. After reviving, the Awakened one would be dealing 40 damage, and with a pretty rough draw, I couldn't do much. I did, however, get very lucky with my Sundial timing, as I gained 2 extra energy from shuffling my deck on the previous turn. I played both zero-cost shivs and a single upgraded strike to hopefully boost my pen nib enough to double a big attack next turn. I knew that I wouldn't live another attack on only 22 health. Things were not looking very good. The boss had 290 health and would kill me on the next turn unless I killed him first. There was really only one attack in my 24-card deck that would be able to deal enough damage to secure the victory. I needed to draw Skewer. With my fingers crossed, I pressed end turn, ate 40 damage, and thought back to all the luck that had gotten me this far. Barely surviving both the Hexaghost and the Champ. The 33% chance to pull Necronomicon from the Cursed Tomb. And Skewer. The first card I added to my deck, all the way back on the first enemy in the first act. And the Spire smiled down upon me. There it was, front and center. With 12 energy, I played 2 unloads to stage my pen nib and unleashed my 400 damage Skewer straight into the heart of the Awakened one. Never before had I had a run where each and every relic I picked up played such a pivotal role in the final boss fight. Every single one of them was useful. Okay, wait, no, never mind. Actually, I still have that stupid whetstone that upgraded 2 strikes. You stupid dumb relic.